So you mentioned some interesting phrases like new product, new industry, timing. Do you see sort of startups today? It seems like you see startups in three different lenses. Um, like, what do you mean about like new product, new
Yeah.
industry versus, I suppose,
Yeah. So
the other one you mentioned was like reinventing an industry. So yeah, that sort of thing I'm talking about.
yeah. So you probably need to look at it as in like, are you asking people to spend new money,
Hmm.
or are you asking them to shift their money? Let's use the word jelly beans, right? Are
Okay.
you asking them to shift their jelly beans to you, or is it a whole new batch of jelly beans? And it's much, much harder to get someone to spend something new.
Yes.
That's a much, and I've done it, and it's really, really hard,
Hmm.
because you need a catalyst. So, for instance, when I was in the security space, um, you know, Michelangelo, like if you remember the antivirus, the virus, Michelangelo really put, this was like 1990, 2005,
Hmm.
really put like Mike antivirus software on the market. Michelangelo came, they shut everyone's systems down for like 2 days. It was a huge thing. And all of a sudden, everyone needs to have antivirus and anti-spam. Think about, the actual title chief security officer didn't exist
No.
in the 90s, right?
No.
Came in probably end of 90s. So, Wi-Fi security, network security, these things all started to evolve. And so you have to have a budget, right? In other words, it's much, much easier to say to someone, well, what's your budget for X? Great, go spend it with me. So we used to joke around when I was doing payments, like you wanted a smart application for a business owner would be one button says make you money, the other one says save you money, like, because that's all that they actually really care about.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to look at it that way. When you reinvent an industry, now you're actually coming in and saying, all right, however you've been doing and spending money, I'm going to change the way you're actually doing that. So for instance,
Mm.
my company in the 90s, let's go back to mobile. We one of our like our wireless email system, I used to call it my $50,000 wireless email system because only I used it. It was we built it. It was very, very expensive to build, and no one cared, right? Because no one was doing email then, right? So if you weren't doing, like, I remember landing on an airplane, we landed, and I opened up my antenna and I was checking my email on my handheld, and someone's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm checking my email." They're like, "Why would you want to do that?" Now, of course, in 2022, how can you even think that there was a time before where you didn't check your email every 13 seconds? But in those days, it just didn't happen. So we were, think about how long that actually took to evolve, where email became so pervasive. But the industry that we did automate really successfully was the pharmaceutical sales force automation,
Right.
pharmaceutical sales forces.
Yep.
So in the U.S., when a pharmaceutical sales rep leaves a prescription drug for a doctor, they have to capture the doctor's signature, right? As if they were writing a prescription, you capture a signature. Well, that was all paper based, and they were, I remember walking to a warehouse. There were, acres of these sample cards, just all these cards, all paper based, and we came in there and said, all right, let's automate that whole thing. And we came in there and mobilized that whole industry really within like 2 years, 3 years. It's pretty cool. And so the money that they were spending on sample cards and people to pull the card, there was all this money being spent, and they were spending lots of money on laptop computers to give out to the reps. Meanwhile, they only wanted to capture certain information. So we really became a cost savings for them. They took out all this cost. It's much, much easier to reinvent an industry when you're taking cost out
Yeah.
than saying, hey, I'm going to make you spend money on something new.